I think ended up where I expected I was gonna be. Just knowing about like my family history, my past, and everything, I guess.
It is where I landed. But I will say that because of the way that I was raised and the way I'm living now, I'm very grateful to be where I have placed because of the people.
For me, I would say I was pretty chill through the activity. I was happy to participate, and I think I ended up where I thought I would.
For me, because I was not born here and I was not raised here, so some of I think half of it it's not related to me, so I cannot answer.
No, actually, when I first heard what we were doing, I assumed I'd be in the front as privileged.
I kind of expected myself to be in the back, and I was in the back as well. And I didn't take it personal because you said not to. So, yeah.
Well, I was really self-conscious actually, because when I started getting the idea of what was being asked of me, I was like, oh no, I think I know where I'm going to end up.
I think I was definitely on the opposite end of the spectrum where I also figured out, okay, well, forward means privileged, right? And I ended up taking a lot of steps forward, and also made me self-conscious because it's at a certain point you feel bad for being privileged because, oh, your peers had to work so hard, but you had it so easy. But then I just tried to calm my ego down and just be like, I should be grateful that my parents worked very hard.
For me, I think most of my surroundings have always been the same social class as me, so I never felt any different. And for myself, when I treat other people, I kind of tend to not care about what the identity they have, and it's just I kind of treat them as my equal and my friends, because that makes me feel comfortable to just talk to everybody more. So yeah.
Since I technically come from an unprivileged background, it does hit a lot more harder when I meet someone from that background as well. I tend to favor and be more empathetic to their situation. But I'm all thankful for my experiences of being underprivileged, because it's definitely, feel like, made me a better person because of it.
Made me realize that people have a lot more going on than I expected. There's a lot more under the surface that we don't really think about. So that was really telling. And all these stories that we don't know about are what brought them here where they are right now, but it's not something we see. So just to be more sensitive or considerate when approaching people in general, just because you don't know what their story is and where they've come from or how they've grown up. So you don't know what's going to affect them and what kind of stories that they have.
I would say for myself, I think as someone who kind of ended up privileged in activity, I think younger I used to kind of be ashamed of being privileged, but I now I'm proud not to be privileged, but proud of how I was raised to not take things for granted and be thankful for everything that you have. And I think it's a good reminder to just kind of be that selfless person to others and try to apply that in my life.
It took me a long time to really understand what Christ meant to me. First, it was community. The community brought me in, and I was like, wow, this is just a great, kind group of people. But it wasn't until afterwards where I realized, we all come from some form of brokenness. Underprivileged or very privileged, you can still experience brokenness. And I look up to Christ. He comes from a broken family who, grew up in a hard background, carpenter's background, and it took him time to be really accepted. And even then, it was difficult for him to be accepted by everyone. And just to be reminded that, all of us are in that situation.
I enjoyed the different questions. I think it helped just bring an awareness that everyone has their own unique story, but I guess in the church it's cool that even though we all have our different stories, that we all have Jesus in common, and I think that can create a beautiful thing.
One of my takeaways is that, like the Pharisees and the tax collectors, like your Zacchaeuses in the Bible, even though I might have walked up for a lot of the prompts, I need Jesus just as much or maybe more than the next person. And it might look different for me than it does for someone else, but those struggles are still there, and sin is still very real, even if, I never had to worry about money or food when I was a kid. So everyone needs the gospel.
As I'm growing older and growing more spiritually, I've learned to realize that all the obstacle or family situation that God put me and everyone else in, I think it's all for a reason, and everybody have like different obstacles, and it's all just to build our character, and it makes me to be more grateful. Like now that these questions make me reflect on myself, and I think throughout my daily life, I see myself, I think just doing things with deeper thought to it, just because I know that the identity that I have doesn't really define me, and learning to embrace that my social class and everything else doesn't affect me as much, just because I know that I am the richest because of God's love and grace. So yeah.
Double hui.
Double hui.
Yeah.
When you said it, I thought it was
2x hui, or is it hui squared? Would you
Hui
put the
squared.
coefficient before us, or are we a exponent?
Ready? Are we ready to go? Yes? Okay.